Good afternoon, everybody. Phil Simons here with Columbia Grain and your Friday afternoon weekly grain market recap. Well, today we're joined by Keegan Gibbs, our buyer up in Wilma, Washington in the great PNW. We are going to get into what Keegan sees in terms of new crop wheat coming at him in the PNW. But before we do that, we do want to just have a couple of notes real quick in terms of what could have been potentially driving the markets around this week. One of the biggest things that we were seeing this afternoon was some statements from the Russian ag minister that said that the May freeze event that we saw early in the year, a lot of the producers were able to actually get that area reseeded in time to potentially minimize any potential production issues that they may arise because of that, which was definitely putting some additional pressure, pushing futures down again this week. But now that we talked about that, along with the conditions report that we saw here earlier in the week for U.S. wheat, Keegan, what are you seeing in the great PNW? What's the white wheat crop look like, and what's the red wheat crop look like up there?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Wilma is also Clarkson, Washington. That's right, where Clarkson and Washington and Lewiston, Idaho meet. It's where the Snake River and the Clearwater River meet. So south of the river is Antietam County, and that's crop didn't get some of the rains that we've seen. It's not looking as good. It's actually kind of turning yellow already, and I've heard some kind of bad reports just because they haven't been able to get some of the rain. But over in Idaho and up north of the river, up north of Snake River, they've actually had some really good crop reports coming out, and people thinking they might get 90 to 100 or just above average yields, which is really good to hear, especially when you have the largest wheat producing county in the nation is Whitman County right north of us. And then in Idaho, we've kind of seen some similar reports. So kind of some below average guys that we've heard, unfortunately, but then a lot of the other people say above average to average. So we're thinking about an average crop coming towards us come harvest. So we'll probably start harvest maybe a little early because there's some heat coming towards us. We had some late season rains last week and a couple weeks before that really helped the crop out. It was really desperate. But now we got some 80 to 90 to even hundreds the next couple weeks. So that's going to kind of kill the crop and probably start harvest second or third week of July, we're thinking.
That's exciting. So it sounds like it's going to kind of turn what you would call Africa hot here
Yes.
pretty quick, right? Yeah, okay. All right. Well, good to hear, Keegan. Really do appreciate that rundown. Let's take a look at our favorite website, columbiagrain.com, as we're going to share our screen with you again here and just kind of look at some of the aspects that Keegan was talking about. Today, we really were kind of focusing on some of that 30-day forecast. Just as Keegan was mentioning, it does look like we could potentially see the temperatures really start to rise here in the majority of the U.S., which will have some definite implications in terms of overall quality, right? That we see coming out of the wheat crop as we get closer and closer to harvest, really more in that northern tier. You know, again, because we really are in really the thick of harvest, and quite honestly. In a lot of that breadbasket area, the wheat that's coming off is definitely being reported as better than expected. You know, so again, definitely, more wheat stocks coming at us than what we were originally thinking. The other thing that we were looking at here was today that we did have the export sales report out. And Keegan, we were talking about this, a pretty good length here today, because quite honestly, it was pretty good numbers from the U.S. from a wheat standpoint. Overall, we did have 21.7 million bushels sold that came on the report here this morning. Now, again, these numbers are as of last week's business, but it was definitely nice to see some of the volumes that we were seeing. We did see some spring wheat, just over 7 million bushels got sold last week. Winter wheat, just over 4 million. Soft red was just at 2.5 million, but then soft white wheat came up at 7.6 million. So nice to see a pretty decent round of sales there. And realistically, Indonesia was listed as one of the bigger buyers for white wheat here this past week. So definitely nice to see that. And then realistically, what we were looking at as well was what we've seen this week in terms of overall futures price action. You know, again, if we start on the left-hand side of the screen and work our way over, we see that corn, so new crop corn, December corn, had a weekly range of 18 cents and actually wound the week down by 14 cents. When we look at new crop soybeans, we had a weekly range of 36 cents there. We actually wound the week up with a net loss of 29 cents. When we turn the page and look at the wheat complex, you know, again, the volatility continues to get bigger and bigger with wheat as we get closer and closer to that that thick of harvest and the hedge pressure that we're seeing. But with Kansas September, we did see a weekly range of 49 cents there, with a net change of a loss of 47 cents. And in Chicago, September, we had a 53-cent range, closing the week with a net loss of 52 cents. And same thing in Minneapolis, had a weekly range of 46 cents there, but a weekly change of a loss of 49 cents. So again, really kind of closing out more at the lows this week on the futures complex. But with that, Keegan, we were talking earlier as well that, you know, with the move that we've seen in Chicago, and when we're particularly talking about like soft white wheat in the PNW area, that did help to move your new crop basis higher. We did see get to some levels that we hadn't seen for quite some time, quite honestly. You know, and took advantage of a little bit of that. You know, September, I believe, Keegan, were we like at 40 over for September?
40, right around 40.
Yeah, so it's pretty good activity right now to be able to potentially take advantage of locking in some of those basis levels on the current HTAs, or maybe even on some of the accumulators that producers were good enough to get locked in place when we had the futures run up that we had here, you know, just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, for sure. We've been telling guys that the last couple of years we've had 50 to $1 basis, which has been really nice, but I just don't think that's going to be reality this year. So we're really recommending, as we have all this harvest pressure coming towards us, we have Russia being cheaper wheat and stuff. It's really hard for us to be competitive. But luckily, soft white does have some basic demand out of Indonesia and those places. So the basis is there, and we're recommending guys, when it gets to these levels that we're seeing now, might want to start looking at options to put in orders for basis or even set basis for a new crop harvest, because we're not sure how long this basis is going to last, just because there's a lot of downward pressure on the futures, and it's just tough for the U.S. to catch a bid with Russia right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Keegan, really do appreciate the rundown and everything that you're seeing up there. And like Keegan was saying, you know, be sure to get a hold of your local merchandisers, your managers, and your buyers. You know, get your orders out there and working, because of the knee-jerk reactions that we continue to see in the market. They will definitely work for you regardless of what you're doing. And that could be, just as Keegan was saying, for anything, for a cash contract, for a hedge to arrive, for an accumulator, or to set a basis as well. So be sure to get your orders out there and working. Other than that, Keegan, we're going to go ahead and wrap everything up for the weekend here. Hope everybody has a great week. And remember, if your trading strategy seems to be working, you haven't used it long enough. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk with you next week.